Hi, it's KhoPhi here. On this table is the Insta360 1-inch mod that is looking naked here. Now, I have a lot of disappointment about this camera. I have a lot of things to say, so let's just get straight into it and share my thoughts about this Insta360 camera. So I bought this camera about 4 weeks ago and have been using it to capture some of my shots, and I have shot a lot with this. Not as much as I did with the GoPro or the Osmo Action, but this camera is a disappointment all around for whatever you can think of when it comes to what an action camera can possibly be. This fails in every direction I try to look at it, and it's an absolute disappointment. That's the best way to put it. This camera, it's actually a modular system. So this is the battery, this is more like the control unit, I would want to call it that, and this is what holds the 1-inch sensor. So I bought this camera with the primary goal of using it for low light shot as well, and also indoors, because it has a 1-inch sensor, which is better than any of the action cameras on the market in terms of how much light can be captured. But that is the only useful thing about this camera. That is the single most useful thing. Anything else about this camera is useless. It's absolutely nothing to write home about. So let's start off by the user experience. The user experience on the app in the device itself is weird. Like, it's confusing. It's not easy to follow, and I understand that it's even something of an upgrade, considering previously some of the firmwares were even worse in terms of the user experience. The app would crash. The sequence of actions that if I do, this app will just crash and won't respond to any input or touch or whatnot. That happened more than I could count. You know, you're shooting and all of a sudden you go to preview the image on the screen, you come back to the camera to want to record, and it wouldn't work. That was a terrible experience that I had, and I could recreate it most times. Aside that, the second issue is in terms of speed. This thing is so slow. I don't know, but I would expect an action camera to be active, to be responsive. So in an action, when I press the record, I would want it to start recording, if not immediately, at least a second after. Pressing record on this thing, if the camera is already on, is going to take about 2 to 3 seconds before it actually starts recording. And if it's 100% off and you want to bring it on and start recording, you're looking at somewhere 8 to 9 seconds. That's enough time to miss an action. You are looking to capture something in the moment, this camera will fail you 100%. The next point, which is why this camera is currently looking bare bones like this, has to do with the fact that it's absolutely nothing close to being even waterproof. So, you know, you can put the Osmo or the GoPro in water. And at a certain depth, and it will survive. This camera can't even withstand mist. So here's the backstory. Myself and Ishmael, we went to a recent waterfall in the eastern region here in Ghana. And at the waterfall, it's this very tall waterfall, about 60 meters. So when the water is dropping, it forms this mist, which is huge. And when you get there, like within a minute or two, you'll just be wet because of the mist coming from this waterfall. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be hard, you know, shooting. We barely can see anything because of the fog around. And so this camera was put in the bracket. My idea is, well, if it's not waterproof, at least it should be able to withstand this mist around. And so it's in this bracket, tightly closed. What could go wrong? Now, after recording for some time, I noticed this gets foggy. So that's a whole thing I'm going to point out in this video later on. But it gets foggy in here, and so I have to put it out. And that might be the mistake or not, but I would imagine that this thing is self-contained enough to be water resistant. In hindsight, this is not. So from the waterfall, like, it got foggy. I thought it was this, pulled it off, recorded. Then later on I realized this also has become foggy. And I was like, what do you mean foggy? And then it wouldn't turn on. So it would turn on, the light will come, but nothing would respond, no input, nothing. So I brought it home and put it in this silica gel. I think that's how they call it. And after a couple of days, it started working, which was good. But then there was still kind of like a fog on the lens or whatever. I couldn't see it from the, it wasn't visible from this side. So I thought, is there fog on the lens? And that got me to pull this thing out and try to put it in the silica gel again whilst it's exposed like this to be able to absorb as much water from it as possible. It was really hard trying to get it open, but with a heat gun, I was able to melt it up and just pull off the adhesive and have it open like this. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this part to go in there and come out. I am not sure this is detachable, but I don't want to risk it. So, but yeah, basically put this also in the silica gel for a day now, more than a day now, and putting it on and trying to capture things works so far, no issues. Now, that was a huge disappointment for me because I've been able to use the Osmo in similar situations and even worse. In rugged environments, in water. I recorded this video with the Osmo Action in the swimming pool, absolutely no issues. I've used the GoPro in worse conditions, hot, cold, falls, like a whole lot more, and had no issue. So this at a waterfall, without even dipping it in water, going all crazy and stuff and not working was an absolute disappointment considering it calls itself as an action camera. That was a failure on this camera's part. Now that you might think, oh, that's maybe extreme for what this camera is designed to do. Right from the box, from day one, every single recording I do in 5.3K, after like about a minute of recording, my video turns out to look like this. And the fog happens in here. I don't know what kind of hurricane is happening in this camera, but every single time I try recording, probably more than 1 minute, it starts fogging up to the extent that I need to take this off. Now, I understand this is meant to provide a bit of protection to the actual lens, but it's not recordable if this thing is on and there's fog in there. The advice was to put it in silica gel after you got the camera if you live in a high humidity environment, but it still doesn't work. It's just, for whatever reasons, this thing has an ocean in it. That has led me to a whole lot of losing of footages, a whole lot of inconvenience when on set shooting. And this camera is absolutely something I cannot recommend to anybody for that matter. For me, I don't think I'm going to invest in any of an Insta camera, no matter what they tell me. I also got the SMO 4K, the lightweight version of Insta360 with the primary goal of using it for my FPV so that I can have it a lightweight camera for long range and stuff like that. Also got it out of the box, turned it on for the first time. Second time, just went up in smoke, wouldn't turn on again. Camera is currently useless. I went online trying to look for if I could get the board or something of that sort. Doesn't seem to exist. The only option is to send it to Insta. Now, for somebody who lives in Ghana, like getting gadgets in and out is expensive. Unless Insta is going to pay for the round trip, the cost of that, my best option is to repair it. But there doesn't seem to be a way to repair it easily at the moment. Currently has been able to revive this camera and have it working with a clear lens so far. Now, call me crazy or whatever you want to do, but I'm going to drop some of these silica gels in here to stick with the electronics in there to ensure that it doesn't fog up as much as it does. And also, I am going to make it in such a way that I can keep picking in here or pulling things out and inspecting it from time to time to see that everything is intact in there. Anyway, that's been my experience using the Insta360. It's a terrible device. It has a terrible user experience. It has a terrible design build. It has a terrible durability. It's just an all-round disappointment when it comes to what an action camera is supposed to do. And I mean, it feels like a scam in terms of how bad the camera is. I mean, you would think of an action camera to hold up its weight when it comes to some of these real-world functionality, but this appears to fail all round, and it's an absolute disappointment. Unfortunately, couldn't pick any of this up when it comes to the reviews I watched, and I can't recommend this device to anybody for whatever reasons they plan using this camera for. If you are living in the real world and is looking for a real world camera for real world stuff, this definitely feels all around. In any case, that's my thoughts when it comes to this camera. And yeah, let me know in the comment section below what you think of this device if you have one. And yeah, hope to hear your thoughts as well on this. Thanks for joining me in this one. That's from me so far. I will give you an update of how this thing goes and whether it works out for me. In any case, thanks for joining me, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.